Hi, guys. So this is the Fairview Management Training Program session called Dealing with Issues. So let's get right to it. In dealing with issues, there are three things we're going to go through today. One, the issues list. Secondly, the issue solving process. And finally, 10 commandments of solving issues. So issues are things that we deal with all the time, and we need to know how to go through them. A lot of the time, we just think we just talk through it, but it's pretty ineffective. I would say that on average, my success rate is something like 4 out of 10 discussions actually result in a really good solution. But there are ways of improving it, and I'm going to share that with you today. So, first of all, you need to have an issue list. As middle management, you have lots of things happening. And if you don't write down all the issues that you have in your department, you're not going to be able to keep track of things. Now, you're going to have a big issue list that comes from the annual meetings that you organize to talk about the big targets for the department. Second part, the size and the health of your issues list is directly proportional to the trust that's in your team. If you don't have trust in your team and your guys don't believe that they can share with you issues, well, you're not going to have a very big issues list, or you're not going to have very real issues either. So building trust is really important. And this is part of a process. So at the beginning, you're not going to get all the issues out, but as you demonstrate the way that you manage these issues in a non-judgmental and fair way, the more issues will start turning up. So you're really looking at three kinds of issues, and you need to keep this list of three types of issues. One, issues from your vision organizer. Well, we'll tackle the vision organizer later on, okay? But essentially what this is your big targets, okay? And these are issues that you'll tackle at quarterly meetings. We're going to go through meetings in the next module, but for now, all you need to know is you need to have one list of big issues that you created when you did your annual reviews. Secondly, you're going to get weekly issues from your weekly meetings. So you need to put this in another list. And third, you need to have one called the delegated issues that come from above, from your MYP coordinators or higher up, or your principal perhaps, and you need to put that in another list as well. Now, here's a pro tip. When you have meetings with your staff, always make sure, set a rule perhaps, that every staff member needs to have at least 2 issues on the list. Things that they believe are the top 2 things that should improve to reach vision goals, okay? Not personal goals, not department goals. Okay, so the issue solving process. There are a couple of problems that cause most teams to go into paralysis. One, they're afraid of conflict. Second, no focus. Third, a lack of discipline. Fourth, a lack of commitment. We all know people who say they'll do things, but then nothing ever happens. Next, personal ego. This is where the shouting starts. All these things can be solved if you follow a process, and everybody agrees we follow the process, okay? And this is called the IDS, identify, discuss, and solve. And we're going to get right to it now. So we start with the overall. First of all, look at the entire issues list, all 3 of your lists, and decide at your weekly meetings, what are the top 3 issues that need to be solved? Top 3. Now, your list can have 20 things on it. That's fine. But you decide what are the top 3 things you want to solve. Now, you can have this conversation at your previous meeting, or you can do it right there and then. Up to you, whichever works better. I prefer to have it done in the previous meeting so people have time to prep in. Okay. It's important that you don't go through the list from top to bottom in the order that they were brought up, because that's not necessarily the most effective way of doing things. And it can be from any of the 3 issues lists. Now, obviously, if somebody, one of your bosses told you, this needs to get done by this date, I guess it's going to turn up as a priority then. Okay. Remember, the chair of the meeting is responsible to lead this discussion. sometimes you have to make the hard calls and say, I know we want to do this issue, but this one has to take priority because it has a certain urgency or importance associated with it that we all need to recognize. Okay. The second thing is the person that brought up the issue is responsible to make it clear what type of issue it is. So what's the issue and what's needed? Okay, so everybody has some responsibility going on here. It's not just the chair's responsibility. Okay, identify, stage one. So you identify, you take one issue. Now, you need to ask, what's the real problem? Very often you have to do this several times. 2, 3, or even 7 layers down. It's not going to be straightforward for you. You know that you are at the root cause when it starts to get a bit uncomfortable, when people start shifting in their chairs, when they start crossing their arms, when they start going, yeah, okay? Don't be afraid of confronting the elephant in the room, but you don't have to confront the elephant in the room in a mean way, okay? This part here, because of how important it is, it can be a bit longer than the next 2 steps, which is discuss and solve. But you need to go through this. So don't rush it. Take your time to identify what is the actual problem. Create a safe space by not judging people at this point. If people start throwing blame, you say, look, we're not here to cast blame. We're here to identify the issue. What is the issue? What are the facts? And just leave it at that. Do not humiliate people in the room, okay? This is an opportunity for you to demonstrate your leadership skills by making sure that you take care of other people's feelings. Now, there's going to be 3 kinds of issues that you're going to pick up here. 1, are there issues that you need to solve? 2, are there issues that need to be communicated to or agreed by the team? So solve meaning, science department, we don't have enough test tubes. We need to solve this issue. Communicated and agreed. Hey guys, I have a new process and we all need to agree to this new process of science equipment acquisition. And finally, ideas that need digesting. Guys, I think that we're going to have problems with our safety measures in the science lab because I just don't feel like we have enough. And we're gonna fail our next IB authorization. You guys have any ideas? So ideas that need digesting is the 3rd type. Solve, communicated, and agreed, or digesting. Now the digesting one, sometimes it needs brainstorming, sometimes it needs feedback, sometimes we just want to talk about it and have the entire team say, yeah, it's a good idea. Okay, but the chair, you need to make this decision about what's the issue and what type of issue is this. And you're responsible to lead this discussion, challenging and nudging the discussion forward. So discussion. This is the place where you waste the most time if you don't have the right issue. So don't waste time here if you haven't spent enough time sorting the issue out. Okay. Second thing, this is an opportunity for everyone to say everything they have about the issue. Now, please note a couple of important things. 1, don't go on a grandmother story, okay? We need to know what's the issue. People need to say their piece, but it doesn't have to be a 15-minute sprawl. Don't repeat over and over and over again. It's grandmother stories and it's politicking. You got to tell people flat out, you've said it once, that's enough. Again, make sure that what they're talking about is aligned to the greater good, not what's best for the speaker. And this is going to be tough for you, not what's best for the department even. The greater good. What is the overall mission? Okay. Allow some healthy conflict to occur. Maybe somebody says A, somebody says B. What you do is you say, thank you for that. I recognize that this is a different opinion. Let's hear everybody's opinion out. All right, so it's healthy conflict. There will be some pain. People are not going to agree with each other. That's just the way it is. But it's what's more important than you trying to make sure that everybody's on the same page and agreeing to the same thing is allowing people to know that even though they are not on the same page, they will be heard. And that's very important. Okay. But again, don't let them get into grandmother stories. And very importantly, have something called a tangent list. Okay. Write it on the board. Tangent list, literally write tangent list. And if somebody gets into a tangent when they're talking, so they go off topic onto a tangent, then say, okay, hold on, tangent alert. This is a tangent. I'm going to write this on the board. We can decide later on whether we need to put this into the issues list or no action required. Okay? But you're not going to continue with this tangent. So be very, very sharp about tangents. Now, the final step, the solving. Now, solving is a conclusion or a solution that translates into an action for someone to do. And when done, the issue is gone. Solutions are not compromises. Very important. They are the best solution to further the vision. It's not for one person's sake. It's not a compromise. Please make it very clear. Now, there are 3 types of resolutions that we'll be looking at here. 1, solved and requires action. Action. Okay, for this one, assign a PIC, get it done. 2, this issue is solved with just awareness. Everybody just needs to know about this. And 3, we need more. We don't have enough right now. We need more research or facts or vendor analysis or something like that. For action and more, assign a PIC and then move on. Don't harp on about it, okay? Right, so here's 10 commandments of solving issues. 1, stop trying to make everyone happy. You're not chocolate. 2nd, consensus management does not work. You're going to try and make everybody happy. You're going to make nobody happy. The team doesn't have to be happy. Okay, not everyone in your team is going to be happy. You can't please everyone. That's just not going to work. But the team have to agree to support the decision. That's what you need to do. And you need to make a vote on that. Do we agree to support this decision? And when we vote, and the vote outcome says that it's going to be this way and not your way, you agree to abide by these rules, that we are going to support this decision together. It's either that or you find a new team. And you need to be hardline clear about that, because you cannot tolerate dissenters here. No major decision we've ever studied was taken at a point of unanimous agreement. This is by Jim Collins, a very famous author. Okay, so no big decision was ever made at a point of unanimous agreement. Somebody's always going to disagree. Next rule. Thou shalt not be a wussy. Wimpiness has no place in leadership. Your team needs you to be strong, have a strong will, firm resolve, and willing to make the tough decision. Solutions are simple. It's just not easy to implement. Thou shalt be decisive. Now, the only man who never makes any mistakes is the guy who never actually did anything. Chronic indecision is not only inefficient and counterproductive, but it's deeply terrible to corrosive to morale. And finally, the best one, he who does not always choose the best, who muses long. Don't overthink, please. Thou shalt not rely on secondhand information. If you're dealing with an issue and the guy that is, important to actually give you facts about the issue is not in the room, stop the conversation, set up another meeting, bring the guy in. Don't talk using secondhand information, talking about the guy, not a good idea. Stop, bring the guy into the room in another meeting, and then have that discussion. Thou shalt fight for the greater good. Now, this is hard. Focus on the greater good, not what's best for you, not what's best for somebody else, not what's best for the department. Fight for the greater good. This helps you stay away from the temptation of self-serving ideas. It also helps stay away from things like fragmentation of organizations. It cuts out candy coating, personalities, and politics, because people can easily say, well, I think the greater good, the best thing for this department is something else, and they can fight you down on it. Next, thou shalt not try to solve them all. One issue at a time, in order of priority, not according to the list. Never, ever rush an issue to jump to another one. And look, there's always going to be another issue to solve. Don't rush through it. Next one. There really only are 3 options in life. Thou shalt live with it, end it, or change it. There's really three things you do with anything. You got a girlfriend, you either choose to live with it. If you can't live with it, then you either end it or you change it. That's it. Right? Living with it is always the last resort. Don't go there unless you absolutely have to. And when you've decided that's the end of it, be done with it, stop complaining, and move on. Next, thou shalt choose short-term pain and suffering. On average, people have studied this and they said, look, painful decisions inflict 36 hours of pain, but it's way better than months of indecision and agony. Solve it now and rather than later. Next, find your worst fears. Frankly, when you have an issue list, and if you see an item over there that's looking really painful and you don't want to go there, guess what? That's probably the issue you really need to tackle, because something's telling you it needs to be done. You're just scared to deal with it. So go for it. And finally, take the shot. Thou shalt take the shot. Propose a solution. Don't wait for somebody else to solve it. If you're wrong, your team will let you know. It's okay. It's all right to make mistakes. Your team will recognize you far more for the person that took the shot, made a mistake, apologized, learned, and adapted from it, than the guy who went, I don't know what to do. All right. So, final notes. When you're done creating your issues, solving your issues, write the solution statement. And this is a very, very clear solution statement based on everything that you guys just discussed and agreed on. Do it in front of everybody, very clearly on the board, and allow people to say things like, that's not what I heard. Don't worry. That's called the process of alignment. Don't be too shocked when somebody says it. In fact, expect it and give them that opportunity. This is how you create a safe space and the trust that's going to make these discussions flourish. Thank you and good luck.